What's going on, everyone? I'm Ty, and that's Spence, and this is episode 7 of 2 on the Clock. What's good, my boy?
Yes, sir. We chilling, man. I'm excited. You already know I was telling you earlier, I got a lot to say today, so we we're gonna get to it today for sure.
Yeah, Spence got some stuff to get off his chest for sure.
Oh, I sure do.
All right, so we're going to start with the wild card game pick recap. But to go over the scoring for the brackets that we made, the scoring is going to be 1 point for each person that picks the correct team that's playing and moving on, and an extra point for the person that picked the team that won the game. So if you pick the matchup correctly, that's a point, and then it's another point if you pick the correct winner. So that's what we're going to do going into round 2 of the NFL playoffs. So without further ado, let's dive right into the first game of wild card weekend, which was the Chargers and the Texans. Texans put a beat down on the Chargers. I picked the Texans, and you picked the Chargers.
I picked the Chargers, so you got me on this one. 32-12.
What happened?
We'll talk about it after. Let's go through the whole first round, and we'll talk about it after.
All right. So I got it.
Yep.
So in the next game, the Ravens and the Steelers played. The Ravens beat the Steelers 28-14. We both picked the Ravens in this game.
We sure did. Pretty easy one there.
Yep. And then the Bills beat the Broncos 31-7. We both picked Buffalo in this game as well.
I said I wanted to pick Broncos, but I couldn't. I took the Bills as well.
I remember. Yep. That was smart.
Yeah, sure was.
And then Green Bay went to Philly and lost 22-10.
Yep.
We both picked Philly.
Yep.
And then the next game was the Commanders at the Buccaneers. This one I got wrong. Spence got it right. Commanders win 23-20.
Yep, that was a great game.
Great game to watch. And then in the final game, it was Minnesota at LA. We both picked the Rams. I'm sorry, the game wasn't in LA. It was in Arizona because of the fires. But LA won 27-9. So we both got that one right as well.
Both got that one right. The Rams took out Ty's team, the Vikings.
Yeah, my team. So it looks like we tied this round. We both had the same amount of correct picks. Yep. So we both got one wrong.
Yep. So 5-1, right? We both went 5-1. Both got 5 points.
Yep, 5-1.
Cool.
All right. So to go through each game, we'll start with the Texans and the Chargers.
All right.
What happened?
I would like to start on this.
The floor is yours.
So obviously I picked the Chargers, and it was looking like I made a great pick early on in the game. It started off with the Chargers driving down the field methodically, got into the red zone, drive stall, field goal. Next play, when the Texans got the ball, fumble, turnover. Chargers got the ball in plus territory. I'm like, all right, this is in a perfect start. They're about to go up 10-0 at least. They couldn't do that. Couldn't convert in the red zone. They stalled out. So it was a shaky start for both teams. I thought both defenses came out and played very, very well. Texans were turning the ball over too much in the first half. CJ had a turnover. Joe Mixon, who you were making a case for the Pro Bowl, and one of your reasons was he didn't fumble all year. He had a fumble. But we got to have a conversation about Justin Herbert.
Yes,
because he was one of the biggest reasons why I thought the Chargers were going to win. And one of those reasons was for the season, he had 23 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. He ended up having 4 interceptions in one game. So I did a little bit of research, and I wanted to kind of get a better understanding about Justin Herbert because yesterday was bad. So in Justin Herbert's career, he has overall a 41-38 record, so just above 500. He's been in the league 5 years. This was his 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
His rookie year, his team went 6-9. He threw 4,336 yards, 31 touchdowns, 10 picks. He was offensive rookie of the year. Team missed the playoffs. Second year, his team went 9-8. he threw for 5,014 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. That was a really solid season. He made the Pro Bowl. His team missed the playoffs. That was the year that them and the Raiders played on the last game of the season. And if whichever team won would get in, but if they tied, they both would have got in. Game went to overtime. Yeah. Raiders ended up kicking a field goal at the buzzer. A lot of people were thinking maybe they're just going to tie just to make sure, whatever. They didn't tie. Right. Chargers are bounced. Mm-hmm. Third year, the team went 10-7. Justin threw 4,739 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 picks. Team made the playoffs that year, and that was the year that they played Jacksonville. They were up 27-0. I believe it was like 27-7 at halftime.
Yep.
And the Jags came back and won 31-10. Mm-hmm. Pretty awful loss.
Terrible.
Can't give up a 27-point lead. That's crazy.
Yep.
Fourth year, Justin his team went 5-8. He threw for 3,134 yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. So kind of a down season, and the team missed the playoffs. And then this year, team went 11-6. He threw 3,870 yards, 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So great turnover ratio. I thought that was great. Made the playoffs this year, and then obviously lost to Houston. Mm-hmm. In his 2 playoff games, the first one against the Jags, that game he was 25 for 43. He threw for 273 yards and 1 touchdown. And he somehow allowed Jacksonville to walk them down, and they blew that lead. Yep. And then the other day, this weekend, he was 14 of 32, 242 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. I can't fathom a world where you throw 3 interceptions in 17 games and then 4 in one game.
In one game. Yep.
And on top of all that, in July of 2023, so after his 3rd year in the league, he signed a contract extension that was 5 years, $262 million with $133 million guaranteed. I'm very confused as to why he's held at in such high esteem. I understand that he has tons of talent. He is like prototypical quarterback in terms of height, 6'4", 6'5", 220, athletic. He's got a cannon of an arm. He can make all the throws. Like all that. I get all that. But as an average quarterback, 41 and 38, only made the playoffs twice, and the 2 times he's made the playoffs, he's kind of flamed out. And then you got guys like Lamar, who had to fight tooth and nail, scratch and claw to get his contract, even though he's been in the playoffs every year, 1 playoff games, 1 MVPs. You got Dak, who had a hard time getting his contract. I don't think Dak is a world beater, but Dak's won a playoff game. And you got like guys like Brock Purdy, who they're talking about, we're not going to pay him $50 million. We'll pay him maybe $30 when he's been to the Super Bowl and NFC Championship game twice. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to figure out where the disconnect is with Justin Herbert and the rest of the quarterbacks in the league. And I don't ever want to hear Justin Herbert's name when it comes to top 5, even top 10 quarterbacks. I just don't want to hear it. He doesn't belong in that category.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. The 14 of 32 blows my mind. And then 1 touchdown, 4 picks. Like you said, he threw 3 picks all year, then threw 4 picks in 1 game.
At that 1 touchdown came on an 86-yard catch and run from Ladd.
From Ladd McConkey, yep. And Ladd was carrying him. If you look at Ladd McConkey's stats, 9 catches, 197 yards, and a touchdown. If Ladd didn't have the game that he had, he wouldn't have had 242 yards.
Right.
So I'm with you.
Bro, he had 80% of his yards.
Right. So Ladd picked the right game to have the best game of his life. Herbert picked the wrong game to have the worst game of his life. This is the worst game of his career. 14 of 32 is crazy to me. KJ, sorry, we cutting that out. We cutting that out. We cutting that out. We cutting that out. I read it and then said the opposite.
Yeah. Okay.
So J.K. Dobbins did not help either. I know he was nicked coming into this game, but 9 carries for 26 yards is not going to get it done. I know the game script didn't really go in his favor, but that's not going to get it done. My boy, Joe Mixon, who I did have in the Pro Bowl, showed up and showed out despite his 1 fumble. 106 yards and a touchdown. I'll take that. I know it was 25 carries, but
I
I'll take
mean,
that.
he started out slow, but he picked it up in the second half, and he kind of sealed the game in the second half and really started picking it up. He wasn't able to really get anything going in the first half, but he picked it up in the second half for sure.
But so the game script did not go in J.K. Dobbins' favor, but it did go in Joe Mixon's favor. So that helped him. Nico Collins balled out. I know you took him out of the Pro Bowl too, and I think he heard you because he said 7 catches on 8 targets for 122 yards and a touchdown.
You know, it's funny. Who did I take him out for? A guy that played in this game. And what did the guy who
Lad.
played in this game do?
He balled out too.
He balled out even more than Nico did. They were both great,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Stroud, not bad. 22 of 33, 282 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. That pick was bad, but he did enough to win the game. I feel he's a guy that if you wanted to go and pay him like you want to pay some of these other guys, like he should have Herbert's contract. He's won 2 playoff games now, right? He won last. Yeah, he's won 2 playoff games now. So if you want to give him that contract, I'm with it. Herbert, who's won no playoff games, I'm with you. You can't. He's not in that conversation. Obviously, Stroud is not top 5, but he is on the rise for sure.
and it's not like Justin Herbert hasn't had talent around him. He's had guys. He had Keenan Allen his first 4 years. He had Mike Williams. He had Austin Eckler. He had guys who could make plays for him. So it's not like, he's playing like this year was one of his better seasons statistically, and he had the least amount of help. So it's like, why when you have all that talent were you not able to get over the hump? I don't quite understand it.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm not going to lie. When I picked the Texans, I was very unsure of myself. I was not confident in my pick, and I thought I messed up. But honestly, I got lucky with this one. This one was plain luck. I did not. I had no business picking Houston, but I'm glad I made that pick.
I was definitely shocked when you did, but it worked out for you. But bro, how did Quentin Johnston do this game?
No catches on 5 targets.
Bro, he needs to put in some work this offseason. Like, he, for whatever reason, cannot hold on to the ball consistently. He'll have a game like he had last week where he put up almost 200 yards receiving and then no catches on 5 targets. He was tied for second on his team in targets. Ladd had 14. The tight end Will Dissly had 5, and then he had 5.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of happened to Quentin Johnston or what his career is going to look like moving forward, but he's got some work to do to figure out how to hold on to that football for sure.
Yep. Okay, moving on to the next game. That was Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Again, we both picked this one correctly. Russell Wilson, 20 for 29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
It's not bad.
Not bad at all. Najee Harris. How do you feel about Najee Harris?
I'm not a huge fan. I don't think he is any types of top in terms of running backs.
Thank you.
I do think that Pittsburgh's offensive line is a part of that reason, but I just don't think Najee Harris is that excellent of a running back. He's okay. Had a bad game, but he's okay. He's just okay.
Yeah, 6 carries for 17 yards. You definitely need more from your run game if you want to win, especially in the playoffs, especially against against a team that relies so heavily on the run game. George Pickens, he had a fine day, 5 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown on 5 targets, so no drops. He definitely had a bounce back game, but they just couldn't overcome Derrick Henry. 26 carries, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 monster stiff arms, and then Lamar 16 of 21, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's a great game. They were completely dominant. And I am now getting a little bit nervous about my pick for the Bills to beat them.
So there's a couple things. I think the balance that the Ravens had is what they have to have if they're going to make a run. 21 passes, 50 rushes. You have to be a run first team. You cannot switch up and abandon the run. They got to pick a number where it's like, until we get down 24, 28, 31, whatever, we're not going to abandon the run. If they get down 10 or 14, they can't just throw it out the window because that's when they've gotten in trouble historically.
Yeah.
But man, the Steelers, I feel like they started off the game just not as locked in as they should have been. It's a very small thing, but I noticed it. I was so confused. So the opening kickoff, Baltimore kicks it off to Pittsburgh, and the ball lands at the 10-yard line. So it lands in the landing zone. They just let it bounce and go into the end zone. So
Not
instead of
being
starting
aggressive.
at the 30, they started at the 20. And then after the game, you got Cordell Patterson complaining about not getting any touches, and he's the one who just watched it. He's jumping up and down, like running to the sideline, excited, like, catch the ball, and be aggressive. Like, you got to be smart on that. Like, it's a small thing, starting from the 30 or starting from the 20. It's a small thing, but it's a mindset thing. And then last week when we were talking about George Pickens, I had said how important it is to get George Pickens involved early. Now he did have a good game, but I was very curious to see what they did this game in terms of getting him involved early. First drive, no targets. But their first drive, they did give a target to the backup tight end, so I thought that was a really good play, a really good decision. Second drive, nothing. Third drive, nothing. Fourth drive, they finally got him a target, and that was with 4 minutes left in the first half. So second quarter, 4 minutes left, they got him his first target, and it was a catch. They went to him again.
Short catch.
They went to him again on that drive, and he pushed off, made a nice catch, but he pushed off of the pass interference. Okay, cool. He didn't get another target, which is technically his second target, until 3:24 left in the third quarter. That's when he caught that 36-yard touchdown. You're going to, they played well in the second half. They outscored Baltimore 14-7 in the second half. But why do they wait so long to get their only playmaker involved? They got a couple other decent pieces. Calvin Austin, okay, he's decent. Mike Williams, he's decent. Van Jefferson, he's decent. But none of those guys put together are George Pickens. So the fact that they don't make a concerted effort to get Pickens the ball early, to me, is just mind-blowing. And I think, Arthur Smith over there, it's a brain fart. There's no reason why Pickens shouldn't have been involved early in Austin. If they did, maybe they would have been able to put up some points and keep up with Baltimore and not be put in a situation where they're so far behind, and even though they had a better second half, they still fall 2 possessions short.
Yep. Yeah, and to your point of starting early, like to be aggressive and getting your playmakers involved and putting up points early. That first drive, starting at the 20-yard line, they gained a total of 19 yards in 6 plays and punted. Baltimore comes right back down, 13 plays, 95 yards, touchdown. Like, that's devastating to just punt on your first drive and the other team chews up 7 minutes of game clock and scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
That is, right there, that's... And now, granted, their defense did hold up and force them to punt on their next drive. But then again, the drive after that, 13 plays, 85 yards, 8 minutes, touchdown. And then the last time they scored before the half, 9 plays, 90 yards in 1 minute and 51 seconds, scored a touchdown right before halftime. So that's just devastating. Yeah, and you're not going to win that way. What do they need to do? What does Pittsburgh need to do next year to come back and be a real contender, not just a team that's going to go 10-7 and make the playoffs and get bounced first round?
I don't think either one of the quarterbacks they have on their roster is going to get them where they need to be. Justin Fields, I like Justin Fields, but he's more of a run-first quarterback. He's not a guy that's going to be able to put up 200 to 300 yards in the air consistently and push the ball down the field enough to really be a legit contender. So I don't know what they do with quarterback, but I do think they don't have the right quarterback on their team. And I don't know. I really love Mike Tomlin, and I hate the idea of saying that they need to move on from him. But how many more seasons are you going to just get away with being a winning team and not having a losing record and then getting bounced from the playoffs in the first or second round at best? I can't tell you the last time they went to a championship game. Maybe it's time for a new voice in that locker room. I'm not too sure, but they have the defense to be able to compete. They need to make some moves offensively and possibly at the head coach.
I have a solution for your quarterback problem.
Let's hear it.
Sam Darnold.
Nah.
Not after the last game?
Nah. Because you got to think about it, and I've been thinking about this a lot because I was really high on Sam Darnold this year. Is this the Daniel Jones breakout season that Daniel Jones had, where he had that one good season and parlayed that into a $30-35 million a year deal, and then reverts back to how he was before?
Yeah.
I think it's really tough to just say he's here, he's changed completely. This is how he's going to be the rest of his career. We've only seen him for 1 year. We got to see this a little bit more consistently before we say he's the answer to anybody's problems. Because the last 2 games, the biggest games of his career, he didn't look great. And it wasn't all his fault, and we'll talk about that once we get to that game. But I think people got to be a little bit careful. And I was riding the wave of he's the next, he's
You sure
the
were.
answer. But I think these last 2 games kind of made me realize, all right, take a step back. He played great for, all those games, however many 16 games.
Yeah.
But when it matters the most, is he really that guy? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I did want to shout out Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry I skipped over your rushing stats. 15 carries for 81 yards on top of your 175 through the air. He is the ultimate dual threat. Probably the best in the game at being a dual threat. So
Probably.
Definitely.
Ain't no probably.
So when he's playing like that, like I said, I'm very, very nervous about my Bills-Ravens pick, and I might go back on that.
There's a way to beat Baltimore. Falling behind by 3 touchdowns is not the way to do it. Once you encourage them to run the ball 50 times, you're cooked. The only way to beat them is to have Lamar throw the ball 40-plus times. If he's not doing that, they're pretty much impossible to beat.
Yep. All right, cool. Going on to the next game. This was Denver at Buffalo. Beat down 31-7. Bo Nix, your guy. 13 of 22, 144 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Josh Allen, 20 of 26, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And your other guy, James Cook, 23 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. No fumbles. What did you think of this game?
So the first drive, when the Broncos got the ball, I thought we were going to have ourselves a game.
You sure did.
That first drive honestly gave me chills, the way that Bo Nix came out. He hit a 3rd and 8 to Cortland Sutton on a deep crosser, stepped up into the pocket, made a great throw to Cortland Sutton, and then he hit that, 46-yarder or 40-plus yarder to Franklin. I got chills on that, watching that, bro, because I was like, this rookie's about to come in here and go head-to-head with Josh Allen. Now, I didn't think they would win, but I thought it would be a little bit closer. And then from there, the Bills kind of just took over. This was a time of possession game. The Bills possessed the ball for 42 minutes to the Broncos 18. You can't do anything. You can't do anything with that. Buffalo is very similar to Baltimore in terms of having the run-pass balance. The 23 carries from James Cook is going to be key to them even having a chance against Baltimore, because it's the same thing. To me, next week, and when we talk about that, the key to that game is who's going to have a better balance, a better ratio between running and passing. If Buffalo switches and tries to have Josh Allen go hero mode, they're going to be in trouble. Same thing with Baltimore. They got to stick with what they do, stick with what got them here, and that's lean on your workhorse running backs, because those 2 running backs are sensational.
Yeah, and even Josh Allen rushing, he 8 carries for 46 yards. That's not crazy, but that, again, that dual threat, it makes the defense think, oh, he has the opportunity and the ability to run it if he has to. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind and not let him do that. Ty Johnson, 9 carries for 44 yards. That's solid. Ray Davis was
Ty Johnson had that one play, the play of the game.
The touchdown?
That 4th down, that touchdown, that was awesome.
Yeah. 4th and 1, right?
4th and 1.
Yeah, that was a great play. Ray Davis is solid too. He didn't really get much playing time, but he's capable as well.
It's not that he didn't get much playing time. Josh Allen sent him to the hospital. He lofted this little ball down the rail, put too much air on it, and he got him concussed, got him knocked out the game. Those hospital balls are scary. He knew it too. Right when he let it go and saw it happen, he knew that he set him up. Because if you put that ball on him, he could have given Ray some room to catch and make a move. But the fact that he lost it was too high. He had to stretch for it, and he sent him to the hospital. So hopefully Ray Davis is all right.
Yeah. But Denver's running game is not effective. Bo Nix was their leading rusher, 4 carries for 43 yards. Javonte Williams, who I know missed some time, he's only got 500 yards on the season, 7 carries for 29 yards. And then Jaleel McLaughlin, 2 carries for -2 yards. He also missed some time this season as well. So their running game just has not been consistent. And I think that's why I don't really blame Bo Nix too much for not having the game that you're accustomed to seeing him having, because Buffalo knew what they were trying to do and they weren't going to let him do it.
Yeah. And this was more of a game script type thing, too. Buffalo kind of went on a tear there after that opening touchdown by the Broncos. But also, like, this is the norm in terms of how rookies perform in the playoffs. We get spoiled when we see guys like C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, some of these other rookie quarterbacks who come in and play great in the playoffs. I mean, that's not normal. So I'm not too surprised. I think the more the Broncos play and Bo plays, the better they'll be. And this is only one of a handful of times where the team that has the worst cap situation, I think Denver has the most dead cap money out of anybody in the whole league, made the playoffs. So the fact that Bo was able to help him get there his first season with no cap money at all, that'll just get better over time as they clear away Russell's dead cap money. They're going to add some pieces and be able to, be contenders. They're going to be tough for the next 10 years, at least, with Bo Nix, for sure.
Yeah, and then that whole beef between Russ and Sean Payton, looks like Sean Payton was right. Because give Sean Payton Bo Nix and look what he was able to do.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, Buffalo looked good, but it wasn't
did.
very competitive. So we will see what happens next week when they host the Ravens.
Yes, we will. Battle of the MVP candidates. It's going to be great.
Moving on to the next game. Green Bay at Philly. This one, I know what you're going to say about Green Bay, but I'm very interested to see or hear what you're going to say about Philly.
Okay.
You
want me to go or you want to go?
No, I want you to go because I know you've got some strong feelings about Jordan Love.
I mean, I hate to say I told you so, but he didn't play well. 20 of 33, 212 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks. Now, I know they had quite a few guys go down with injury. Romeo Doubs, wearing the Guardian cap, still got a concussion. But he had one early in the year, so obviously when you have a concussion, you're more susceptible to it. So he went out with a concussion. Jaden Reed went out with a shoulder or elbow or something. He went out with an injury. Jacobs was in and out of the lineup as well. So they were already down Christian Watson. So they really didn't have that many weapons at all. But before those guys went out, Jordan Love wasn't playing well. I don't know. I don't know what Green Bay has to do. They might have missed on a quarterback the first time in like 30 years. They might have missed on a quarterback because they had Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love. We'll have to see what happens with him moving forward. But I mean, he wasn't playing well at all. I didn't think they really ever had a chance yesterday. The Eagles. Saquon was pretty good. 25 carries, 119 yards. He played pretty well. Jalen Hurts didn't blow me away, obviously, with his numbers. 13 of 21, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. They played well enough to win. They will not beat the Rams if he plays like this. I don't think he'll play like this. You got to remember, the last time he played was Week 16, first quarter. Got knocked out of the game Week 16, didn't play Week 17, didn't play Week 18. So he's been off for about 3 weeks. So I do think he had a little bit of rust that I think he knocked off. I do think he plays better next week. But if he plays like this, they're going home against the Rams.
Yep. Okay. I agree with you about Jordan Love. That performance was also abysmal. However, I'm not entirely going to crucify his performance because I don't feel he has a number one receiver. And it's really hard to play well when you don't have that. Who is his number one receiver? I mean, it's been up and down. It's been inconsistent, partly because of him. But do you have that guy that can separate when it's 3rd and 10 in the fourth quarter and you're down by 7? Who's the guy that you're going to target? I don't know who I'm going to when I'm looking at their receiving. Josh Jacobs is great. He's solid. They need to hold on to him. He did have a tough day, 18 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. It's funny, that's a tough day for him, but we know what he's capable of. He's
Yeah.
capable of a lot more than that. So I think their receivers is almost as big of an issue as their quarterback play. I think you need to give Jordan Love a chance with some solid receivers, a legit number one, a solid number two, and then see what happens, see how he can perform. Philly, I agree. Saquon did what Saquon does. I also agree. Jalen Hurts did not play his best game, and it makes me nervous. Shout out to Green Bay defense. They did a great job taking away a lot of what he likes to do. But only one target to A.J. Brown. One catch for A.J. Brown. One catch for 10 yards. Whew. He's a legit number one. And if you can't get him the ball, you've got a whole new set of problems. The 13 for 21, I agree. If he plays that way against LA, he will not be moving on to play Detroit. And if they continue to play this way, I'm definitely going to be changing my NFC Championship pick to Detroit.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, again, I think they're going to be okay. I just think it was a little bit of rust on Jalen Hurts' part. And then also, too, like, they saw how the game was going. They went up 10-0. I mean, the opening kickoff, Green Bay fumbled. They scored. Green Bay punted. They came and kicked a field goal. So I think they were ultra conservative as well. They didn't want to take any chances, turn the ball over. They knew their defense was playing great because they obviously have an elite defense.
Yeah.
And then the more and more the Green Bay Packers players kept getting hurt and getting carted off the field, I think they were like, okay, I don't think they have enough to really come back. So I think they were ultra conservative, plus trying to knock off the rust. I think they'll play better next week. I think they'll be okay. But if they do have these kind of struggles again, like I said, they will go home next week.
Yeah.
But I don't think that happens. I think they knock off the rust. I think they get back to playing Eagles football.
All right. I hope you're right for my bracket's sake. I hope you're right.
Hey, my bracket too now. We're in the same Super Bowl. I was going to ask you if you still felt confident in them going to the Super Bowl, but it kind of seems like at this point you don't.
I'm not pressing the panic button, but I'm definitely not as comfortable as I was when I made this bracket.
Your fingers right here?
I'm ready for it.
I'm
ready. Yeah, I haven't pressed it yet, but I'm ready to press it. Yeah, because LA is no joke. If they show up the way that they showed up this last game, they will not be LA.
I mean, we'll talk about that game. I definitely think the Eagles match up better with them, but we'll get to that game here in a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the next game. Commanders beat the Bucks. Upset, not really an upset. Upset because they were the lower seeded team, but they had the better record. Your guy, you've been talking about him all season. He seems like the real deal. Jaden Daniels, 24 for 35, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 13 yards, and we going to clip that. 13 carries and 36 yards on the ground. Yeah, he was phenomenal. I will give you that. You've been gassing him up, and I've been kind of like in and out on if he's legit or not. But he seemed legit. First rookie quarterback to win a playoff game since, I believe it was. I think I saw a stat that said it was like. Was it Mark Sanchez? Was the last time it happened?
First playoff game on the road, yeah.
On the road, that's right. Didn't get too much help from the run game. Brian Robinson, 16 yards. Austin Eckler, 27 yards. De'Ami Brown. Did not see that coming from him. Nope. 5 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. 5 for 5. Terry McLaurin. He had a solid day as well.
Just doing what Terry McLaurin does.
Yeah, scores touchdowns. That's what he does.
He's that dude, man.
7 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. But I blame Tampa more than I credit Washington.
Okay.
You have Baker was number 3 in the league in passing yards this past year? You have the 3rd most passing yards in the whole entire league. And you drop a game script to have Baker Mayfield throw the ball 18 times. 15 of 18. That's efficient. That's very efficient. 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he did have a turnover. He fumbled on that
It's
little
huge.
jet sweep. I don't know if it was supposed to be a fake or if he was really supposed to hand it off, but
Right.
he and Jalen
McMillan.
McMillan got tangled up. Someone was off beat, dropped it right at the line of scrimmage, recovered by Washington, and that turnover to me decided the game.
Yep.
But Baker played well. He played well. He got the ball to Mike Evans, 7 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. They were absolutely cooking Marshawn Lattimore.
And
They
that
were
was one of
going after him.
That was one of my keys to the game. I was like, Marshawn Lattimore going to lock him up. No,
You did say that. They were
cooking
going
Lattimore.
after him.
But like I was telling you, Lattimore, he wasn't healthy, and he's so prideful, and he's like, "This is my matchup. I'm not switching.
Yeah.
This will be my
Yeah.
guy." And until they switched him off him in the third quarter, Mike
Yeah.
was killing. But once they switched,
Yeah.
they kind of were able to hold Mike in check.
Yeah, they're like, sorry, Marshawn. I know like this is your matchup. You and Mike Evans have a long history, but why don't you go over to the other side of the field and cover Jalen McMillan, and we're going to double
Yeah.
Mike Evans.
Yeah. And it worked out great for him. So
It worked out. It was the right thing to do. Yeah, so that's my take on it. What do you think?
yeah. So Jaden Daniels is special, bro. His poise, his calmness as a rookie is really something to behold. It's something that doesn't come around very often. This guy is just so cool, so calm, so collected, and he's so fun to watch, man. The other key to the other key to the game for me going in was his legs. And it's not the amount of yards that he had. It's when he rushed and which key downs he was able to pick up. There was at least 2 or 3 third downs that he picked up with his legs, scrambling, getting away from pressure, picking up the first down, which extended drives. So in terms of the game script, Baker only threw the ball 18 times. Tampa Bay led the league this year in terms of time of possession. They averaged 32 minutes a game to their opponent's 28. This game, they only had the ball for 25 minutes. Washington had the ball for 35. So, out of Washington's 5 scoring drives, 4 of them were 10 plays or more. And that includes, in the second quarter, they had a drive that was 17 plays, 92 yards, and it took 9 minutes off the clock. So it's not that they didn't diagram enough plays for Baker to throw. They didn't have the ball enough. Washington was so methodical in terms of working their way down the field, taking big chunks off the clock, that I think that really, kind of stifled Tampa's plans, which didn't allow Baker to throw more than 18 times. Because if they did give Baker more time to throw, he was kind of carving them up. But they were able to possess the ball. So this was another one of those time of possession games where the fact that Washington won it, and I think they knew that going in, which is why they went for 5 fourth downs, picked up 3 of them. And one of those 4th downs they didn't get was a pass interference in the end zone. They didn't call that.
Yeah.
But Washington, again, they were 3 of 5 on 4th down, and they were 8 of 15 on 3rd down. You're going to win a lot of games if you put up those numbers. So shout out to Washington. Jaden Daniels, you're the real deal, boy. I'm excited to see you next week against Detroit.
I thought Tampa Bay's defense would have been able to keep him in check. I didn't think he was going to torch them like that. Because that 3rd down that he ran for, it was a 3rd and 1 in the 4th quarter.
Yep.
And when he picked that up, I'm like,
was
yeah,
huge.
this is over.
was huge.
This is too good. And the defender got a hand on him too.
He did.
Grabbed him with one hand, took his towel.
Hey, you talk about Lamar being the best rusher. Jaden Daniels is top 3. He's so elusive, and he reminds me of Lamar the way he plays. He's very elusive, very slippery. He knows when to use his legs, and he's so quick, so smooth.
Yeah.
But I texted you when there was 5 minutes left after Tampa tied the game up, 2020. I was like, I don't think Tampa getting this ball back. And lo and behold, Commanders worked their way down the field, led the clock, field goal, game over.
Yeah, because so we were talking about if you would, go for it in that situation because they had the ball all the way down on the 25-yard line when they kicked the field goal in their last possession.
I think it was closer than that. Could be wrong.
25-yard line. So
Okay.
4th and I don't even see what it says, but it was fourth and something inside the 25, deep in Washington territory, and I said kick the field goal, and you were like, yeah, well, yes, but you might want to think about that because if you go for it and get the touchdown, go up four, you're gonna force Washington to have to go and score a touchdown instead of just bleed the clock and kick a field goal for the win.
Mm.
And you were right; they probably should have gone for it. It's obviously easier to say after the fact.
Right.
I felt very comfortable in the decision to kick the field goal. I felt like it was the right thing to do. But yeah, that Washington has been very good this year about bleeding clock and not giving the ball back to the other opponent to give them a chance to kick another field goal
Yeah.
before time expires.
And for whatever reason, Washington just finds a way to win these close games. They had the Hail Mary, obviously, against Chicago. They had at least like 4 or 5 games, if not more, where they won on the last possession. So that that's all about the quarterback. That's literally all about the quarterback. So Jaden Daniels, man, he is something special. He's special.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the last game of Wild Card Weekend. We both picked this one right. I was surprised that you picked the Rams for this one. I thought you were going to ride with the Vikings, but Rams put a beat down on the Vikings, 27-9. Let's talk about your boy Sam Darnold. 25 for 40, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 fumble. What happened?
He was sacked 9 times for 82 yards.
Was it 82 yards? I didn't know it was 82 yards.
Which is a record, a playoff record. I believe before it was 74 yards back in like the 80s or 70s.
Yeah.
And Sam Darnold just broke the record. But I texted you, there was one play in particular. I'm like, yo, why is he sprinting backwards when he sees the free rusher?
Yeah.
You're losing an extra 3 or 4 yards for no reason. And like, I get it's, you might have been shocked, but like sprinting the opposite way,
we've seen quarterbacks try to like jump forward or duck under it or something like that.
And that's one thing. If you're staying still or moving forward, but going the opposite way, I mean, unless you're Lamar Jackson or one of these, guys that's extremely elusive like that, you're not getting away from that. So I just thought he was under pressure all night. The Rams did a great job of bringing pressure. And I think Sam Darnold started second guessing himself because there were plenty of times where he held the ball for between 4 and 5 seconds before he was sacked. So I don't know if that was just the issue of his receivers not being able to separate or he second guessed some of his reads. I don't know. I think they were out coached. They were outplayed. They were out physical. They were out mental. Overall, they just were no match. No match for the Rams. I think defensively, they didn't have the best plan. Minnesota has been historically all season a very pressure-heavy, blitz-heavy team. And every time they blitzed, Stafford was able to diagnose it. I mean, we know Stafford's a technician now. So he was able to diagnose it and get the quick games off. Quick game. He was getting rid of the ball so quick they weren't really able to touch him. Only 2 sacks for 7 yards. He was relatively clean yesterday. So I think that type of game plan against the Rams, where you bring the pressure, and Stafford is so good against pressure, I don't think was the right game plan, and he carved them up. They got a huge lead. They were able to run the ball pretty effectively with Kyron Williams, and then the defense just went hunting. They put so much pressure on Sam Darnold that he started to, give me I'm seeing ghost vibes.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely noticed that same thing. So when they brought the pressure early and often, Sam kind of got a little bit rattled.
Yeah.
So he felt like he wasn't going to have time to make his throws. So he tried to like almost like tuck it and try to like move around in the pocket and then find someone and then by the time he's looking up, he makes the throw and then he's off target. Like that's not your game. You sit back in the pocket and throw from the pocket. You don't be rolling out to the left and throwing it on the run. You're trying to tell me Justin Jefferson, who we both agreed the best receiver in the game, couldn't get open? He was open. I seen him miss him more than a couple times.
Yeah.
And we both said Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay, Super Bowl experience, a lot of playoff experience, and Minnesota has little to no playoff experience.
Yep. And we had some people in the chat talking about, oh, experience doesn't matter. The same inexperienced Detroit Lions team went there last year and beat them. So we had some people in the chat talking about, oh, experience doesn't matter. Clearly, experience mattered.
Yeah. Yeah, so shout out to the Rams. I agree. They won in every facet of the game. I will say though that Minnesota defense almost did come up with that scoop and score on Stafford's fumble that they ended up changing over to a pass, which I agreed. I felt like it was a pass. Live, it looked like it was a fumble, and I thought. And then you texted me like, "Oh, there you go." Like Minnesota defense is changing the game, and then they changed the the ruling back to it was a forward pass. And then whoever it was in the area. It might have been Puka Nacua was in the area, so they called it an incomplete pass, which I thought was close.
It was very close. By the letter of the law, they got it right. It's kind of not fair that you're able to do that though, because that should have been a fumble, but technically the way the rules are set up, that was a forward pass. He flicked the ball forward. It was very subtle, so technically they got the call right. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of an unfair rule, but hey, that's the rule. So,
yep. And then the Rams defense ended up making a play where they scored a touchdown.
When they a strip sacked.
Yep.
That dude Verse picked it up and ran. It was like a 50 or 60 yard return. That was huge. I made I think 17-3 at the time. So,
yeah.
And it was pretty much over at that point. I didn't really see. I believe it was 24-3 at the half. It was over at the half. So.
Yep, it was.
So now, you brought up Sam Darnold earlier. What do they do? Do they turn to McCarthy or do they sign Sam Darnold to a deal? Because 2 weeks ago it was sign Darnold to a 2 or 3 year deal. What is it now?
Standing pat.
Yeah?
Standing pat. Okay. Yeah, I mean, granted, he didn't show up in the two biggest games where it mattered the most, but he also did get you to a 14-3 record, which only 4 other teams had a record. 3 other teams had a record like that, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So it's not like he, barely squeaked into the playoffs. He was this close from having the number 1 seed, and then he wouldn't even had to play the Rams.
Right.
So I think you still need to. I think if you're Minnesota, you need to sign him, and see who wins the quarterback battle between him and JJ McCarthy. What do you think?
Yeah, that's just so tough to do, to sign a guy and pay a guy and then have him compete for the job. It's like, because you just don't want it to be a situation where you're paying a backup so much. But I don't think this collapse was completely on Sam Darnold. The team in week 17 beat the Packers, and they're in the locker room cracking water and spraying water all over, picking up Sam Darnold on their shoulders. Like, what did they? I don't know why that was warranted. Because that was before they even played Detroit. It's not like they had sealed the number 1 seed at that point. So why do you guys lift him out, Sam Darnold on your shoulder after a week 17 win over the Packers when you then have to go to Detroit and play? So it's kind of like they got to a point where they're like, we made it. And then from there, them as a team and organization, they kind of just went downhill from there. And they didn't play well against Detroit. And the Rams copied Detroit's same game plan defensively, and it worked 2 weeks in a row. So I don't think it was all on Sam Darnold. I do think it was on the team as a whole, but definitely quarterbacks didn't get the bulk of the praise, so quarterbacks also didn't get the bulk of the blame.
For sure. Okay. Moving on to next week's games. We've got the Chiefs coming out of hibernation to play Houston.
Yep.
In the brackets that we made, I'm pretty sure we both picked the Chiefs in this game. Has your decision changed?
No, my decision has not changed. And then in terms of the bracket, here's going to be where you have an opportunity to get the one up on me, because I picked the Chargers and you picked the Chiefs. So if the Chiefs win, I get a point, you get 2 points.
Okay. Yeah, because either way, it was going to be the Chargers playing the Chiefs, because the Chargers or Texans, because it was the lower seeded team going to Kansas City. Okay.
Yep.
So
no, my thought process hasn't changed. I still got the Chiefs winning this game and moving on to like the 7th straight AFC Championship game.
Unreal.
Yep.
Okay. Other side of the AFC bracket, we have the Ravens going to the Bills. We both had that. Has your pick changed?
It has not. Battle of the MVP candidates, man. I wish they'd be able to postpone the voting until after this game. I feel like that would be
Winner of this game wins
yep,
MVP.
that would be super dope. But no, I mean I hope the Ravens get a healthy Zay Flowers back. I do think he has a chance to play. And
Yeah.
I had mentioned that last week. That's going to be a huge possible X factor on whether he plays or he doesn't play, and then how healthy is he. Because without him, it's a little bit tougher. He opens up so much for the rest of the offense. So, you know, I'm going to stick with the Ravens. I do think the Ravens are going to go to Buffalo. No matter what, the Bills don't have the personnel to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a good chance that he can repeat what he did to them in Week 4, which was almost 200 yards rushing. And they handled him pretty easily. I do think it'll be a closer game. I do think it'll be a closer game, but I'm sticking with it. I'm taking the Ravens.
Sticking with the Bills. But let me tell you, I don't feel good about this pick.
You're like 51-49 on the Bills, huh?
I'm only picking the Bills because I started out picking the Bills. I don't want to double back.
Yeah.
But the Ravens look so much. I don't want to say they look better because you know, Buffalo, they were playing a team that was just severely undermanned. But the Ravens just look so good against a legit defense in Pittsburgh, and it makes me scared because I don't think very highly of the Bills' defense.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, and it's going to come down to who manages the clock better in the fourth quarter. That's my prediction. I think it's going to come down to the end. But I'm rolling with Josh Allen on this one.
Yeah, I feel it. I definitely would look at you a little bit less if you jumped off your pick. So I'm glad that you're sticking with the Bills. But what would you say the weakness of the Ravens defense is? And it's been that's been all year.
Their secondary.
Their secondary. I don't think the Bills have enough from their wide receivers. I like Khalil Shakir. Amari Cooper hasn't really gotten his feet wet with the offense, and for whatever reason, Keon Coleman is also kind of up and down. He's a rookie. I like their tight ends. I like Kincaid. I like Knox, but I don't think they have enough to really expose the only real weakness of the Ravens defense. And I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball with as much effectiveness and efficiency as they are going to need to in order to win. So, and I do think Lamar's and Derrick Henry are going to run all over the Bills defense. They're going to torch them.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel's been playing a little bit better.
He has.
I'm pretty sure he had a good game.
He had that nice play up the right
catch
side,
and run, right?
Yep. Made a couple guys miss in the secondary. That was nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the lone bright spot from the receivers, but yeah, it's going to be a tough one. We'll see if they can exploit the secondary of Baltimore.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, give me the Ravens, man. Give me the MVP in Lamar Jackson.
Okay, so the other side, the NFC. It is the Commanders, which now you have the opportunity to get an extra point on me. The Commanders going to Detroit.
Yep. We both had the Lions in this round. Like you said, I had the Lions beating the Commanders. I'm sticking with it. I still think the Lions are going to take care of business. I do expect Jaden Daniels to play well, and Washington to they're not going to roll over. They're going to compete. They're going to try to do the same thing they did to Tampa in terms of ball security, ball control, time of possession. But I just think the Rams are going to be a little bit too much, and the Lions are going to go to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, same with me. I think the Lions are going to win this game. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout. I think that Jaden Daniels and the Commanders are going to compete and give Detroit a run for their money. But in the end, I'm riding with Dan Campbell and the Lions.
They got the Lions as a 9.5-point favorite. I think that's a little steep.
Yeah, I think that's
kind of feeling the Commanders are going to cover.
Yep. All right, and then the other side of the NFC bracket, it is the Rams going to Philly.
So here's another one where I got a chance to one up you. So if we get all of our picks right, both of us, I'm gonna be able to get that little edge because I got the whole NFC right. So that's huge for me. I am still gonna take the Eagles. I think the way that the Eagles can put pressure on the quarterback is different than what the Vikings did. The Eagles, generally speaking, they're going to be able to get pressure with 4 and drop the rest in the coverage. So if they can get pressure with 4, that takes away a lot of the quick game stuff that they were able to do against the Vikings. That front four of the Eagles is legit. I believe they're the best front four in football. They're going to be able to get to Stafford, rattle him a little bit. We know he's not very mobile, so he's not going to be able to make stuff happen with his legs, which is going to make it much more difficult for him to be able to carve up the defense like he did against the Vikings. And I do think that Jalen Hurts snaps out of that rust. They get A.J. Brown going a little bit too. I guarantee you they're talking about it in the locker room. And they're going to force feed A.J., get him involved. Saquon's going to do what Saquon does. And I do think the Eagles move on to play the Lions in the NFC Championship.
Yep, I'm also with you. I am going to stay with the Eagles despite their subpar performance last week. I think that I agree that the Eagles' defense is legit, and they will be able to get home a couple times on Stafford. And for whatever reason, Cooper Kupp has not been playing up to his standard. And if they want to compete with Philly, they need all their guys to be playing at the top of their game. So it's a little concerning that Cooper Kupp has been sluggish over the last little bit of the season. Right. But yeah, he's going to have to turn that around.
Agreed. The Eagles also had a big loss. They ended up losing Nakobe Dean, who is out for the rest of the season. So I think that is going to be a big impact on the Eagles in that second level. But I still think they have enough with that elite defense to take out the Rams. But it should be a good game. Eagles, y'all got to score some points because the Rams are capable. So Eagles, you better show up offensively, be ready to play.
Yep, and it looks like for the Rams, as far as injuries go, it says Tyler Higbee, who had that chest injury, has been discharged from the hospital and he's expected to play.
Okay, he was cooking. He had 5 catches for 58 in like just 9 minutes of play. He was cooking
before he went out. Yeah.
Yep, he was cooking. So that'll be big for them.
All right, so that's all for the divisional round. Let's jump into new head coaches and potential new head coaches. So the Patriots decided very shortly after firing Gerard Mayo to hire Mike Vrabel, who was last year he was a advisor for the Cleveland Browns, and before that he was the head coach for the Tennessee Titans for about 5 or 6 years. Former Patriot defensive player, won multiple Super Bowls. I don't know how I feel about this. I am not the biggest fan of the Patriots bringing back former. I mean, they just did it. They just, Gerard Mayo is in the same category. Former player. He won multiple Super Bowls with the Patriots. Granted, he was a rookie head coach versus Vrabel, who was a multiple-year head coach, and he did have a solid stint in Tennessee. Kind of a tough organization to really, say that you're winning a lot of games, but he overperformed in my opinion. When he was the head coach of the Titans, he did have some solid players. If I remember correctly, he did have D-Hop, he did have Derrick Henry. And he did have, I forget who the quarterback was.
Tannehill.
I'll have to Ryan Tannehill. Not the greatest, but he did have a couple players.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think he had D-Hop. He did have A.J. Brown though for a little bit before A.J. went to Philly. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'm as a Patriots fan, I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm struggling to have faith. I think that they need to worry more about personnel on the field as opposed to coaching. I think they need to get some receivers. They need to get back to their ways of making sure that you win at least the defense or the special teams phase of the game, and then have your offense do their thing. But this past season, it was kind of tough. I was optimistic going into this past season with Drake May. I was hoping that he would play a lot earlier than he did. But to finish the season with 3 wins with such a promising quarterback, it kind of hurts. So I hope that he can turn it around. I'm in a weird state of mind when it comes to the Patriots right now.
Yeah. I like it. I didn't think that Vrabel should have been fired from Tennessee. Don't forget, he took them to the AFC Championship game in 2019 when they lost to the Chiefs. Or excuse me, and yeah, 2019 when they lost to the Chiefs.
I didn't know that.
They got off to a good start in that game, and they went up 10-0 or something like that. They ended up getting blitzed by the end of the game. But taking a team with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback to the AFC Championship game, to me, is a very good coaching job. Now, obviously, that year they did have Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry was that dude back then. I mean, he's still that dude now, but I think he's a good coach. I like the move. I think he is a very solid leader of men, and I think he's going to be able to get that culture to what it needs to be. Now they got to spend some money in free agency. They got to, like you said, they got to get some offensive weapons to help out Drake May. But I like the move. I think it's going to bring stability to the organization. I don't think he's going to be on a 1-year leash. I think even if they have the same record as they did this year, they're not going to fire him. So I think that bodes well for them long term. I'm curious to see who they end up bringing in as offensive coordinator. It's got to be a guy who can put in a good system and work with a young quarterback who's mobile. So depending on who they bring in as OC and then what they do in the offseason in terms of free agency, draft, things of that nature, I think they're going to be pretty good moving forward.
Yeah, I for my sake, I hope you're right. So breaking news that came out today, Jerry Jones had a conversation with Deion Sanders to potentially bring him on and coach the Cowboys. What do you think about that move?
I think Jerry Jones is delusional. I think he thinks that the world works where if he makes a call, something's going to happen. What did Deion just say? He said, I will only consider coaching in the NFL if I can coach my two sons, not just one, not just Shedeur, but Shiloh as well. They just paid Dak. So what are they going to do? Draft Shedeur and have him sit on the bench for a few years before playing him? I don't see that being the case. It sounds good. Of course, Jerry is, going to try to be in the headlines and, making the news as a top story. But it doesn't really make sense for Deion to say, yes, I'm going to go coach Dak Prescott and the Cowboys in an organization where Jerry dominates it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Yeah, it sounds good. Former Cowboys player. They get along. But again, like you said, if Jerry is the decision maker, he's the one determining who's getting paid and how much. Deion is coming from Colorado, where he's making all these decisions. He's got the flexibility of putting NIL money towards whichever player he seems fit. But obviously, that's not going to fly in Dallas. They have very little chance of getting Shedeur. Even they would have to trade a lot to move up in the draft, and I don't see that happening. I am out on Dak, so if I'm Jerry, I know I just paid him. I am out. I'm not winning with him. I'm done. I'm done with Dak, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds nice. Do I think it's the right move for the Cowboys? No. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But if it did, it would be cool.
Yeah. I do think it would be cool. It just, the fit is not there. Deion Sanders is the alpha's alpha. He's not going to walk into a situation where he is not essentially the head man in charge. He's going to be front and center. He's going to be the one talking. He's going to be the one and only voice when it comes to that organization. So I think being with Dallas is probably the worst location for him. The worst location for him.
Yeah. Okay, so hypothetically, right now, Tennessee has the number 1 pick. They need a quarterback. They have their pick, whether they're going to go with Shedeur or Cam Ward from Miami. But if they did go with Shedeur, how do you think Shedeur would perform?
It's tough. I think Shedeur, obviously he has the right mindset. He's been groomed by one of the best leaders and mentors you could ever be groomed by in his dad, obviously. I think he has a great arm, but he lacks some athleticism, which is the exact opposite of what you would think, understanding that Deion was the most athletic person on the field anytime he ever touched the field. But when I watched Shedeur in college, when he did use his legs, he wasn't really getting any separation from the D linemen, from the linebackers. Matter of fact, they were running him down. And if you look at the 4 quarterbacks that were just drafted and where the league is going, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, they all have that one thing in common. Yes, they can throw, but they all can use their legs to extend plays, get out of harm's way, things of that nature. Shedeur doesn't have that. So I feel like with the way that the league is moving, I don't think Shedeur is necessarily a top candidate where he's going to come in and have the same type of success as a Jaden Daniels, as a CJ Stroud, even though CJ is kind of similar. But just the way that the league is going, Shedeur does lack a bit of athleticism, which worries me a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't like overly impressed watching him play in college. He had some good games and some good numbers. I think he's got some arm talent, and I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think he'll be able to win games with his mind instead of his legs. So, with more off-season work, with more reps, I think he can develop himself into a nice pocket passing quarterback. Now, granted, you did say that's not where the league is heading, but throwing out a comparison, Geno Smith, we were just gassing him up. If he can turn into a Geno Smith, that's a good quarterback. We were just saying he's solid. So
Yeah.
if he can play like that and be able to deliver the ball like Geno Smith can, that to me, that's a win.
Yeah.
And I think that the risk versus reward is in your favor. I think that the potential for him is there.
I think so too. I think he definitely does have potential, but I think Gino may be a little bit more athletic than you think. Obviously, he's not a top guy in terms of athleticism, but I've seen him make some pretty timely runs and pick up some big games on the ground, and that's something that I have not seen from Shedeur. But that's not the end all be all. Obviously, the greatest quarterback of all time couldn't move in terms of that. Obviously, his pocket presence was great. His feet were great. His understanding was great. But I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the way the league's going, I would much rather have somebody who can move. It's like a cheat code. It's like if it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, anything that's like short yardage, it's almost like you're guaranteed to get it. Either they're going to throw somebody open or they're going to be able to extend the play, rush, or do whatever they got to do. So I personally would prefer a mobile quarterback. Shedeur is not necessarily that, but I do think he will be a solid quarterback in the league. Maybe just won't make as big of an impact early on.
Okay. Another question along the lines of Shedeur. So where do you think he'll go? I mean, Tennessee got the number 1 pick. Dion said he's not going to go and play anywhere in the cold.
That he's not going to go and play, or Dion's not going to go and coach.
I think both. I mean, Cleveland has the number 2 pick. So if Tennessee takes Cam Ward, I'm sure Cleveland would want Shedeur as they need a quarterback. And vice versa. If Tennessee takes Shedeur, then Cleveland take Cam Ward. The only team I see on this list that has good weather is down at number 6 in Vegas, which, there's been a lot of talk about him going to Vegas from the beginning. Do you think he goes top 2, or do you think he drops down to 6?
I can't see a scenario where he drops down to 6. I don't think it's going to be a situation where he's like, no, I will not go play for you, Cleveland. No, New York Giants, I will not go and play for you. I don't think it'll be that. And I think obviously the quarterback is way too valuable for these teams to let him drop down to 6. I don't think he falls to 6. I'm gonna probably say Cleveland. If I had to take a guess, I'd say Cleveland.
At 2?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll see what happens.
What you think?
If I'm Tennessee, I'm taking him. If I'm Tennessee, I'm taking him. Again, the risk versus reward is too much in your favor, where he's got blood of a winner. So I'm taking him at number 1.
I like it.
All right. For our last segment, we're going to transition over to NBA. We are going to talk about the best NBA championship team that we've seen since 2000, but the stipulation is they cannot have had back-to-back championship seasons.
Right. So, for example, 2017, 2018 Golden State Warriors, they're out. 2012, 2013 Heat, they're out. The Lakers teams, they're out. So that narrows it down to maybe like 15, maybe 15 to 17 teams that we can choose from.
Okay.
This one was tough. This one was tough. My initial thought was to take the 2004 Detroit Pistons.
Really?
That was my initial thought.
Okay.
So that's going to be my 1B.
Okay.
The team that I'm going to take is the 2006 Miami Heat. I was looking at this team, and man, I love this roster. They had guys with youth, guys with experience, Hall of Fame guys. They had a team. So obviously they had Dwayne Wade, third year, 24-year-old Dwayne Wade, who was electric. He was so dynamic. That was his coming out year. He was awesome that year. They had Jason Williams as their starting point guard. He was 30, so he wasn't at a point where he was, headed out the league or anything like that. They had a young 25-year-old Udonis Haslem. They had Shaq, who was 33 years old, first team All-NBA that year. They had James Posey, three-point shooter, defensive specialist. They had an older Gary Payton. He was 37 at the time, but he still brings that DNA, that old school defense, tough play. Mm-hmm. They had Antoine Walker, who was 29 at the time. He played all 82 games that year, which is pretty dope. They had Alonzo Mourning, and they had your boy, Jason Capono. So I was looking at their playoff run, and that year they won. So in round one, they beat the Bulls in 6. Excuse me. They did not beat the Bulls in 6 first round. First round they beat the Wizards in 6. Second round they beat the Bucks in 5. Third round they beat the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals in 6. Hold on.
The Bucks.
Sorry. No, what am I looking at?
I was about to say, who did the Bucks have?
My bad. We'll clip that out.
Okay.
Where did I see it?
Go to I had mine on basketballreference.com.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
And then if you just click, I just put in the year and the team, and then I hit more and hit game log, and then it has like their whole season, including playoffs, round by round at the bottom.
All right, got you. Okay, here we go. All right, so the first round, they beat the Bulls in 6.
Who did the Bulls have that year?
The Bulls had, let's see, Tyson Chandler, Luol Deng, Kirk Heinrich, Ben Gordon, Chris Duhon, Andreas Nocioni. Guys like that.
Okay. That's not a bad team.
Yep, so that's the first round. Beat the Bulls in 6. Second round, they beat the Nets in 5. That Nets team had Richard Jefferson, Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, Jason Collins.
Okay.
Had Mark Jackson, not the Mark Jackson, Mark Jackson. And Vince Carter was nice that year. He had a couple of games in that series. So they beat them in 5. Okay. Eastern Conference Finals, they beat the Pistons. Now this is the Chauncey, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace Pistons. They beat them in 6. And then in the finals, they beat the Dallas Mavericks in 6. Lost the first 2 games, won the next 4. They, to me, were such a good team. They still had that dominant Shaq, that electric D Wade.
I think D Wade averaged 35 that series.
Yep, he sure did. He was absolutely cooking. So that to me is the best team that never repeated a championship in the last 25 years.
Okay, I like it. But I am going to go with the 2013-2014 San Antonio Spurs. That team was nasty. They went 62-20 that season. And in the playoffs, they beat Dallas first round in 6 games. And Dallas had, let's see, Juwan Blair, Jose Calderon, Vince Carter, Jake Crowder, Sam Dallenberg, Monte Ellis, Devin Harris, Ricky Leto, Sean Marion, Dirk, and Brandon Wright. That's a solid team.
That's a solid
Very
team.
solid. And then they went on to beat Portland. And that was 5, I believe. 5 games. And this was the Portland with CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, Wesley Matthews, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, Will Barton, Mo Williams. So solid team.
Solid
Beat them in
team.
5.
Yeah.
And then they go and beat OKC. And this was the OKC. Steven Adams, Caron Butler, Nick Collison, Kevin Durant, Derek Fisher, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Jeremy Lamb, Kendrick Perkins, Andre Robertson, Cephalosha, Russell Westbrook. Like, that team was stacked.
Loaded.
Absolutely stacked. And they beat them in 6.
Yep.
After all that, they go and beat the Miami Heat and LeBron James in 5 games, and they absolutely obliterated them. It was not close.
Yep.
I believe this was the series where they set the record for largest point differential in NBA Finals history. Game 1, they won 110-95. Game 2, they lost 96-98.
Yep.
Game 3, they won 111-92. Game 4, they won 107-86, and Game 5, they won 104-87. So
Game 4 and 5 is bad.
Game 4, yeah, to close them out like that,
yeah,
embarrassing against a team against a team that's coming off back-to-back championship seasons.
Yep, and the 4th straight finals appearance.
Right. So this team that I'm talking about here had roster Marco Bellinelli, Matt Bonner, Shannon Brown, Boris Diaw, Tim Duncan, Mono Ginobili, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, Patty Mills, Tony Parker, Tiago Splitter.
That team's loaded.
Yeah. That team, to me, would be any team that won the championship within the last 25 years that did not repeat.
That team was nasty. But who's going to deal with Shaq?
They're going to have to double.
They'd have to. Yeah, because Shaq was still that guy. They had the defensive guys on the perimeter to give D-Wade some problems for sure if they would play that Heat team. I like it. They didn't really. That was kind of before Kawhi was a superstar, per se. They did it with team basketball, ball movement, fundamentals, 3-point shooting, 4, 5, 6 passes per possession type deal. So yeah, that team, I like it. I can't be mad. I'm surprised he didn't pick the 08 Celtics.
So I had an honorable mention. Hold on, before we go there, Kawhi won Finals MVP that year.
Yeah, but look at his numbers.
Let's look at him. Like his numbers for that series?
For that series, yeah.
Okay. Game 1. Kawhi had... Ooh. 9 points, 2 rebounds, 1 steal. Yeah, we're gonna skip that one. Game 2, he had. Why does it also say 9 points?
Because he had 9 points in both game 1 and game 2.
Two rebounds, 3 assists, and 6 fouls. Game 3, Kawhi, I think he had a coming out party this game. 29 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. 10 of 13 from the field.
Pretty good.
Only missed shots were from 3. 3 of 6 from 3.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yep.
Game 4.
Pretty solid.
20 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks.
Solid.
7 of 12 from the field.
Solid. Oh, great. Yeah,
I'm with you. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So
I'm with you.
he averaged 17.8 a game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.6 steal, 1.2 blocks, 61% from the field, 58% from 3. He won Finals MVP because he held LeBron to 28, 8, and 4. He held LeBron to 28, 8, and 4. Now, LeBron's, I don't believe his percentage was that great. And never mind, he shot 57% from the field. Yeah, so he won the Finals MVP for holding LeBron to 28, 8, and 4, and shooting 57% from the field.
I mean, imagine what would have happened if he wasn't guarding him.
I hear that, but it's not like come on, 28, 8, and 4.
Yeah, he probably. So who should have won that Finals MVP then?
I don't know. What did Duncan do that series?
Tony Parker, 18 points. Oh yeah, 18 points. Tim Duncan, 15 points. Eesh.
He was good. He was getting older. 15, 10, and 2 assists.
Yeah, Tony Parker should have won.
What about like Danny Green or Patty Mills? These 3-point shooters.
Patty Mills averaged 10. Danny Green averaged 9. Tony Parker averaged 18 and 5. Kawhi averaged 17.8 and 6 and 2 and 1, like you said, and 1.
So I guess it makes sense to go to Kawhi because he also took the assignment of guarding Braun and made it difficult on him. Nobody's ever been able to stop LeBron besides LeBron stopping himself against the Mavericks. So I guess you can give it to Kawhi, but I mean, again, that's a team that they play as a team.
Total
that's
team
not,
effort.
That's not a single person dominating. That's a team game. So Kawhi put up those numbers and guarding LeBron. Okay,
Yeah.
but it's not like he was like dominant on the stat sheet.
Right. I'm surprised you thought I was going to pick the '08 Celtics.
Why?
I was not going to pick the '08 Celtics.
Okay.
So I had a honorable mention, a second team, in case I changed my mind last second. You're not going to like it.
Okay.
23-24 Boston Celtics.
That team wouldn't have beaten the 08 Celtics, brother.
Yes, they would have.
No way.
Yes, they would have. 64 and 18.
66 and 16. I like that more.
Number 1 in offensive rating, all-time NBA history.
I mean, the game has changed now to the point where they allow that. It's an offensive game now, whereas back then, I don't think Boston that Boston team would have been able to match the toughness, the tenacity. Who's going to deal with KG? Who's the dog on Boston that was going to deal with KG? Grant Williams?
Grant Williams wasn't on the team. Porzingis.
Okay, well, Porzingis didn't play. Porzingis doesn't play.
He was on the team.
Porzingis does not play.
He was on the team, and that season he played
less than 60 games, 50 something.
Trying to find it.
I might be generous by saying 50.
No. Roster. Porzingis. That's all right.
Why? That's about right. About right. What's it say?
No, I must be looking at something else. It says 16. That's not right. Bro, why does it say 16? You see
He
the
might have
same
played.
thing?
Yes, bro.
No way.
No. He played 57 games.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Does that include playoffs? No, he played 57 games.
All right, you said what, less than 60?
I said sub 60.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that it was a dominant run through the regular season and the playoffs. Beat Miami in
was.
5. Beat Cleveland in 5. Beat Indy in 4. Beat Dallas in 5. So they lost 3
Yeah.
games through the entire playoff run.
Yeah.
And some of these games, I know some of them they squeaked out against like Indy, but they also blew out some teams. Derek White, contention for Defensive Player of the Year. Drew Holiday, former Defensive Player of the Year. Jason Tatum in contention for League MVP. Al Horford.
Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP.
Jaylen Brown, Finals
Eastern Conference
MVP.
Finals MVP.
Yup, say it louder. He's that dude. Who's guarding Jaylen Brown? Paul Pierce.
Pierce, yeah.
Who's guarding Jason Tatum then?
Posey.
Come on.
Posey.
Who's guarding Derek White? Ray Allen.
Ray.
Who's guarding Drew Holiday? Rondo. Give me 23-24 Celtics.
Who's guarding Kendrick Perkins?
Whoever you want.
He ain't got nobody for Perk. He gonna be averaging 15 boards a game. He'd get cooked by KP the one game KP played, but he'd do a number on your boy Al Horford.
Al Horford would hold Perkins down for sure.
Perkins is too big, too physical.
Who's guarding Peyton Pritchard?
Eddie House. Okay, who's guarding Pierce?
Jaylen Brown.
Who's guarding KG?
Porzingis.
You can't say Porzingis. He played one game in the finals. You can't say Porzingis.
I can't say Porzingis.
Bro, you played one game.
Al Horford.
Okay, who's guarding Rondo? Okay, yeah. Y'all got some defenders. But Rondo is gonna be that X factor. You know he's that smart.
Rondo wasn't even like that yet. Oh wait. It wasn't until the next year that he really came out, became an all-star.
See what he did. Rondo played 30 minutes a game. Yeah, 10 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Yeah.
Give me Drew.
I don't know. Oh, don't forget about Tony Allen now. Tony Allen putting the clamps on both those guys. JT and JB. You know Kobe Bryant.
He's not big enough. He's not big enough to guard JT.
He'll be all right. He's let's see, how tall is he? He got to be at least 6'6". Okay, he's 6'4". He a little small. He's 6'4". He's a little small.
That's Mouse in the house.
But you know, Kobe said that that Tony is the best defender he's ever played against. A lot of people say Tony Allen's the best defender they ever played against.
He did, but Kobe was 6'6". Tatum is 6'9".
How tall is JB?
6'8".
Is he 6'8"?
Six.
Well, put him on him. Tony Allen, you got Jaylen. Got him. But that would be fun.
And then what? Pierce on Tatum?
Yep. We saw what Pierce was doing to LeBron back then.
He was playing up to his level of competition at that time.
Pierce was playing up to the level of competition?
He was, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, Pierce was that dude back then. Ray was the all-time leading three-point shooter at the time.
It would be an interesting series because the 23-24 Celtics would not be able to handle the physicality. They wouldn't even know what hit them.
Yeah.
But the '08 Celtics would not be able to understand the barrage of three-pointers that the 23-24 Celtics would put
The
on them.
spacing, the three-point shooting, yeah.
KG going to be out standing 27 feet from the basket trying to guard Porzingis shooting from there. He's going to be like, this ain't real. And how is he going to protect the rim when he's standing out 27 feet from the hoop?
They'd have to go big. They'd have to go.
You lose either way because the Celtics can shoot threes from every position. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis, Al Horford. Even if Horford's in, same thing. He's just as much of a threat as Porzingis from three.
Right. Yeah, that'd be a tough matchup for sure. It's so tough to compare era to era because it's like how would they translate? Because like Pierce would then be shooting more threes. KG would take a couple steps back and start shooting threes because he had that mid range top of the key knockdown. So if he took a couple steps back and took all the threes that they take now, how would he be? So it's tough to compare. Like you said, the physicality was advantage 08, the offensive spacing and the 3-point shooting obviously is an advantage 23-24 Celtics. So it's tough, but yeah.
You can't go wrong. They were both historically great teams.
No, not saying neither one is historically great. We'll see what this Celtics team can do and how many they can win in a row.
23-24 numbers-wise is historically great based on like offensive efficiency, points per game, stuff like that.
It is, but you can't just win one championship and talk about we historically great.
About to be two.
If it's two, then we can talk. But until then, you can't.
About to be two.
Can't say.
All right, I'm gonna make a note right now. As soon as the season's over, we revisiting this conversation.
Then we can talk about if they're historically great or not. Talk about it. Now, if you go back to back, there's not too many teams that have gone back to back. So if you go back to back, yeah, you're historically great. I'll give it up.
All right. My AirPods just died. I'm gonna just wrap this up and pretend like I can hear you. All right, so that is a wrap for episode 8 of 2 on the Clock. Run it back. All right, that is a wrap for episode 7 of 2 on the Clock. I'm Ty, and that's Spence. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.